okay? Number 3, imposter syndrome. So feeling like you're a fake, right? Feeling that you're a fraud and someone's gonna find out that you shouldn't be where you are. So if you got the job, or maybe if you're in a high paying job, or you're an executive, feeling that someone's gonna find out that you shouldn't deserve the spot. That's imposter syndrome. And then the next is just getting to the next level. So how do you be seen? How do you build a personal brand? How do you speak up? How do you communicate in a way that's well received so that you can move forward in your career? And those all come down to confidence. Okay, so tell me what you got. Let me see what I'm seeing here in the chat. What do I see here in regards to, so type in the chat what you think resonates most with you. Imposter syndrome, taking risks, getting to the next level, self-advocacy. Let me see what you put. I'm gonna watch. Number 4, okay, getting to the next level, self-advocacy, self-promotion. Yeah. Number 3, imposter syndrome, 1, 3, and 4. Number 1, awesome. Thank you for being transparent, and thanks for sharing with me, because like that's how we grow, is by saying this is the challenge and now we can work on it, okay? So there's 2 types of confidence. There's external confidence, okay? So for example, maybe when you logged on today and I started talking, you thought Netta's confident, right? Because like the way I'm talking and my outfit and how I'm presenting myself, you might have thought that I was confident. That's external. But that doesn't mean that internally somebody is confident, okay? Internal confidence is something completely different. So let's talk about internal confidence. This is the real definition of confidence. Sometimes in society, we twist the definition and it becomes something completely different. And I often hear in the workspace, oh, that woman is too confident, or you're overconfident. That doesn't exist. Okay, so the next time someone tells you that, say, actually, Netta with Rise Up For You said overconfidence doesn't exist, okay? Because this is the real definition of confidence: a feeling or consciousness of your own power, okay? A reliance on your own circumstance and skill, a faith or belief that one is in the right, proper, or effective way, the quality or state of being certain, and the relation of trust or intimacy. Now, when you talk about self-confidence, all of those things are very, very positive. Self-confidence isn't mean, it's not superior, it's not stuck up, okay? It's not harsh, it's kind, it's open, right? And it has a growth mindset. That's what real confidence is. So inner confidence, also known as self-confidence, can be identified as the thoughts and the beliefs that you have in your mind. I like to call it monkey chatter. So have you ever had that voice in your mind that's like, and it tells you you can't do this and you can't do that, and it gets in the way? I call that monkey chatter. Okay. The second is the conversation and the self-talk that you have with yourself, what your perception of yourself is. Okay, so how do you see yourself? If I were to ask all of you right now, tell me 3 things about yourself that have nothing to do with your skill or your job or your work, would you be able to tell me? 3 things. Okay, I see some of your faces like, I don't know. Okay, how you show up and treat people. This is part of inner confidence. And then your response, your reactions, and your communication to others. So when you're in the workspace, for example, let's talk about women with women, okay? Because this is important. When you're in the workspace, for example, and a woman puts you down, another woman, how many of us have had another woman put us down, right? It's common amongst women, unfortunately. When that happens, that means because the individual is not confident, okay? So when we treat people unkindly, when we respond in a harsh, right, or an assertive, aggressive way, it's because we don't feel good inside and we have fear that maybe this person is going to take our job. We have fear that something's going to happen, and that's the opposite of confidence. I want to make that really, really clear, okay? So fake versus real confidence. I know there's a lot of confidence gurus out there that talk about career confidence in the workspace, but we're not talking hype, okay? We're not talking write in the journal and gratitude. Those are all very, very, very important. But we really need to create strategies to create long-term confidence and success, okay? So real versus fake confidence, which one do you think you have? I'm gonna explain it to you. Two types of confidence. And this is the blueprint that I created in my book, okay? The first type is micro confidence. This means that you have confidence in a competency. So you're confident in coding. You're confident in speaking. I'm confident in singing, right? I'm confident in networking. I'm confident in like the tech industry. So that means that you've built confidence in external things outside of you, okay? Multiple competencies outside of you. The challenge with micro confidence is just that. It's outside of you. So that means that it's going to change, and it can change. So if you build your confidence and your self-worth based off of things that live outside of you, then when they fall, what's your self-worth? What's your identity? Who are you? How do you get back up? So this is the challenge that we see with COVID-19. So men and women around the world, they've lost their jobs. They've lost their homes. Some of them have lost their businesses. They lost their job title. They lost money. They lost their cars. And there's a huge crisis happening with confidence right now because people don't know who they are. Because they build confidence with all these outside things, now that they're gone, their whole confidence like their whole being fell apart. Their identity, their crisis, who they are, their self-worth is no longer existing. It's in question for them. That's why it's very important to build macro confidence. Macro confidence is an inner confidence within yourself. It's a belief in your ability. It's a growth mindset. When a challenge comes your way, you believe in your ability to overcome it and to pivot, to adapt, to get up and do something different. That's why I shared the story with you earlier about what I went through, because I had macro confidence and it helped me build the company and be better than I was before that experience. All my micro fell apart, right? The job went away, the title went away, the money went away, the house went away, the network went away. All the micro stuff was gone, but the macro level of confidence still existed. And because of that, I was still able to rebuild a career within 2 months and keep moving forward and better myself. And that's the key. That's the important part. Okay. So again, macro level is a growth mindset. If anybody likes to read, there's a great book by a lady named Carol Dweck, and it's called Mindset. Okay. And she talks about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is, I can't do that. Or no, I'm only in technology. Or this is only what I do. Growth mindset is, I don't know it, but I can learn it. I didn't know how to build a business. I was a performer and I was an executive, right? I was a professor. I was never a business owner, but I can learn how to build a business. Okay. So that's the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset. Growth mindset is that you believe in your ability to learn. And when you have that confidence, then no matter what happens, you believe that you can change and pivot and keep rising and climbing the career ladder, okay? This is also very important for you because you do know that in 5, 10, 15 years, artificial intelligence is moving at a very rapid rate. So in 10 years from now, and 5 years from now, maybe even 2 years from now, some of our skills are not going to be needed, right? That means that we're going to have that macro level confidence so that we can pivot and learn a new skill if we need to. So very, very important. Okay. So golden nugget. I always say that the sky is not the limit. It's the mind, right? Give me a thumbs up on your screen if you agree with that. Okay. It's the mind that's the limit, not the sky. Okay. So I always say that the greatest tragedy is wasted human potential. And I don't want that to be your story. So I want to share with you 5 quick steps to regaining confidence. Okay. I can't dive too much into it because I can talk for hours upon hours on each step, but I want to touch each of them. Okay. The first is compassion for yourself. This is what I call the core of confidence. This is the blueprint that I write about in the book and that the Rise Up For You team uses. Getting back to the core of confidence. The first is compassion for self. This goes back to the perfectionist mindset that typically we have as women specifically. Understand that when you're in the process of growth, you're not meant to be perfect. So when you have compassion for yourself, what you're doing is you're putting yourself back on the level of humanity. You're saying, I am a human. And by nature, humans make mistakes. When you don't have compassion for yourself, you're saying the opposite. You're saying, no, I should do everything perfectly all the time and I can't make mistakes. And that's not realistic. So compassion for yourself is very, very important as you're climbing the career ladder and as you're growing as an individual and as a professional, okay? The second is optimism that is real. So today we have something called toxic positivity. And that means that we've heard a lot about be positive, like smiley face, you can do this, right? But we want to be real about the positivity too. Confidence means that you're able to look at a situation and not just say, you know what, I'm going to do it and I'm going to be the best and I'm going to make it happen. That's not what confidence is. Confidence is being able to say, I can do that. It's going to be challenging. It might be difficult. I might fall. There's 1,000 people that want the same job that I want, but I'm going to go for it anyways because I believe in my ability and I'm going to put my best foot forward. So that's optimism that is real. Okay, that's very, very important. The next one is my favorite, and we're going to pause here for a little bit. It's reverse engineering. So neuroscientists say that we have anywhere between 7,000 to about 12,000 thoughts a day, negative thoughts a day, okay? About 80% of our thoughts are negative. That's okay, because the great thing is that neuroscientists also say that you can rewrite some of those thoughts, but you just have to catch them, okay? So when you have a negative thought, you can actually transfer the thought to be positive, but you have to catch the thought, okay? So what I want you to do right now is on your piece of paper, I just want you to write down one belief or one thought that is hindering your success. So just one thing that you have in your mind that's stopping your success, okay? So it might be, I don't feel like I add value to the company. It might be, I don't feel like I'm a good leader. It might be, I don't think my boss likes me. Just one limiting belief that you have that's hindering your success currently. I'm going to give you like 1 minute to do that, and I'm going to take a coffee break while you do that. Okay, now on the other side of the paper, I want you to put, I remember when. And I want you, this is where the reverse engineering comes from, okay? I want you to try to reverse engineer where the thought came from. Because all of the thoughts that we have in our mind, they are an accumulation of who we are as individuals, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, however old you are, okay? So when we have a belief and when we have a thought, it's typically because it comes from somewhere. So it either comes from a person, a situation that you went through, maybe culture, society. And so I want you to trace back where the thought comes from, okay? So if you feel like your boss doesn't like you, for example, why do you have that thought? Is that a true story? Did your last boss not like you? Did something happen the job before? Maybe you got fired, maybe you got in trouble. And so now there's this feeling, right? So I'm just giving you an example. So I want you to reverse where it comes from. Some of you might say, I know exactly where my thought comes from. I know who it is, I know when it happened, and I know the situation, and it's been affecting you since. Some of you might have to reverse it a little bit, maybe a week or two before you find it, okay? So reverse engineering is step number 3, very important. The fourth step, which is my favorite, if you follow me on LinkedIn like Sapna, you know that I talk about emotional intelligence at least 2 to 3 times a week, okay? So emotional intelligence is being able to manage, have awareness, and control your own emotions and thoughts, okay? As well as be aware and help influence and support the thoughts and feelings of others, okay? Now, emotional intelligence is really, really big. I can do probably an 8-hour conversation on this because most people don't know that emotional intelligence has 18 competencies under it, 18, okay? The first two pillars have 9 competencies, and they only have to do with the self. So that's self-awareness and that's self-management. The second 2 pillars have the other 9 competencies, and that has to do with other people. So how you communicate, empathy, influence, leadership, coaching. So emotional intelligence is a big piece of confidence, because when we build self-awareness, and then when we understand how other people are showing up, it helps us boost our confidence and realize that sometimes when things happen in the workspace, it has nothing to do with you. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that you're not a good team member. It doesn't mean that you're not smart. It means that they're struggling and they're acting out, and you happen to be the person that's getting it. Does that make sense? And so that's why emotional intelligence is very, very important to understand. Maybe in the future, I'll come back and I'll do one just on that, but it's a big, big topic. And then step number 5 is enoughism. Okay, now you might say, is that a word? Is enoughism a word? It is a word. So enoughism was actually coined by a man named John Nash in the United Kingdom in the UK. And he wrote a book about enoughism, but he talks about it in relevance to consumers and buying products, okay? So what he says is that today's society, especially like the Western world, we spend so much time buying products to make us happy, but the more products that we buy, the more lack of happiness we have, because we're consuming too much, and it's doing the opposite. It's making us more stressed, more depressed, and more anxious. And so he talks about this concept of enoughism, that we have to actually break the pattern and stop consuming in order for us to be happy. The more we consume outside products and we keep buying and shopping and this and this and this, the less happy we become. It's the same when it comes to our confidence. The more we listen to people outside of us, the more we compare ourselves to social media, the more we let other people's thoughts and opinions get into our mind, the more toxicity we consume outside of us, the less happy we become. So we have to create that enoughism and really turn it back to ourselves and get rid of everything else that's around us that's making us feel like we're not good enough, okay? That's enoughism. So that's the 5 steps. So when we have compassion, optimism, reverse engineering, emotional intelligence, and enoughism, that's what I call the core to building your confidence. That's when your macro confidence exists, okay? Now notice, all 5 of these things, not one of them you can hold in your hand. Not one, right? And this is macro confidence. So really, really quick, before we jump into Q&A, this is really important for all of you, okay? How to self-promote. The first thing that I want you to do this weekend, I want you to write this down on your sheet for homework, is I want you to write down all the accomplishments that you have up until this point in your life that nobody can argue with, including yourself. Just the facts. So Preeti, for example, you're a board member of the Women in Cybersecurity for India. That is a fact, okay? That's an accomplishment. Nobody can argue with that, okay? For example, myself, okay? I have a master's degree in executive leadership. Nobody can argue with that. I have my piece of paper. I got my degree. That's an accomplishment, okay? So I want you to write down every accomplishment, all of the jobs that you've ever been hired for, all of the accomplishments that you've created in the jobs that you can show, any certificates that you have. All of those things, I want you to write them down, because what that does is it shows you on paper the greatness that you have. Sometimes we look at what we do on paper and we say, is that me? I did all that? We forget, okay? So look at the facts, they don't lie. Number 2 is brag with gratitude, okay? So sometimes people have a hard time self-promoting because they don't like talking about themselves. So that's not a bad thing. It's okay to talk about your accomplishments, but one approach that you can take is talk about the other people's accomplishments because of you. So you're bragging about the company's success. You're bragging about your team members' success because of you, right? So for example, Rise Up For You, had the great honor of going and working with Google, their largest conference of the year, 40,000 people. We were hired to coach executives and leaders, okay? I can say it that way, that's one way. Or I can say, I was so inspired by the men and women at the Google conference when they sat down and they coached with us. Within 5 minutes, they were making an impact in their life and they were creating change. I was so proud of the results that they got in their life just because they were able to take the strategy from the coaching. You see what I'm doing? So I'm talking about how amazing these men and women were and how they were able to apply these strategies and grow in their career because of the coaching that Rise Up For You did at the Google conference. You see how I flipped it? Okay, so that's bragging with gratitude. And the third one is show up as your best always. Always show up as your best. People are going to treat you the way that you treat yourself. If you walk into a room and you're staring at the floor and you're not speaking up and you're hesitant, people are going to treat you that way. They're going to treat you as if you're shy and you don't exist and that you don't have relevance, okay? If you walk into a room with your head high and you're smiling and you're acknowledging people and you're showing up as your best with confidence and posture, people are going to treat you that way, okay? So always show up as your best. And I just put like a picture of Michelle Obama here because you see she has energy, she's smiling, she's confident, and like externally, she put her best outfit on, she has bright colors, so she's putting herself out there. Very, very important. Okay, so last exercise, how confident are you? I want you to rate yourself 1 through 10 on each one of these competencies, okay? 10 means amazing, like I'm the best I could be. 1 means non-existent, I need a lot of work, and everything else in between, okay? So the first one is self-talk. So 1 through 10. What is your self-talk like? Is it positive? Do you talk kindly to yourself, or is it more negative? Do you have a lot of self-doubt? Do you have a lot of fear? 1 through 10. The next one is trusting your intuition. So when you get that feeling in your stomach that says, that's not good, or I shouldn't do that, do you ignore it? Do you listen to other people before you listen to yourself? 1 through 10. The next one is taking risk, okay? Raising your hand in a meeting, that's a risk, okay? So for some of you that are in a meeting and you know the answer and you know you can contribute, but you just don't do it. That's considered like you're taking a risk. You're gonna raise your hand, okay? 1 through 10. Self-promotion, that's what we just talked about. 1 through 10. Setting boundaries, being able to say no to people, okay? So you're like, we're not super women, right? So sometimes you've hit your capacity. It's okay to say, unfortunately, at this time, my plate is full, so I have to say no, I'm so sorry, okay? So understanding boundaries, setting boundaries. And the last one is growth mindset. So you believe in your ability to grow. So I want you to rate yourself 1 through 10. I'll give you about 1 minute to do that. 1 through 10 in each category. Okay, can I move on? Or give me like 1 more minute, thumbs up. Thumbs up, okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take your score and I want you to add it up and divide it by 60, okay? So like some of you might have 35, for example. So add each number up and then that total number divided by 60. Some of you might have 35, some of you might have 40, and then tell me what your percentage is. So for example, 40 divided by 60, I don't know, I think it's 70% or 73%, okay? So tell me what your percentage is. Now, if you're like most individuals at 82%, many of us are gonna have under 70, 75%. If you have above that, amazing. If you don't, that's okay. That's the whole point of this. So I want you to put in the chat what your percentage is. Awesome, 83.3%. What else do we have? 76%. 76, great. What else do we have? 78. What else do we have? Don't be shy, 54. Great. Again, thank you for your transparency, 53. Thank you for your transparency. The only way we can grow is by taking a look, 68%, 58%, 53%, 48%. Awesome, very, very, very good. Well, after today, once you start doing these things, that score is gonna climb, climb, climb and get higher and higher. Okay, so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so I'm gonna take some Q&A now, but I wanna remind you that the greatest tragedy today is wasted human potential. Do not let that be your story. Everything that you need is already inside of you. What you see on this screen is two free gifts. These are completely free, okay? The top one is a confidence kit. It's 16 pages of just confidence strategy that you can download and write in, okay? Similar to what we did today, but more on top of that, completely free. And then the bottom link is the Women in Leadership Conference. That's also free. So far, we have over 400 women signed up, and we have speakers from Google, Etsy, Microsoft, LA Fitness. I'm not sure if you're familiar with LA Fitness, the Female Lead, if you're familiar. So this is a great conference to help. We're gonna talk about negotiation, self-promotion, really embracing being a woman in the workspace. So those are both two free gifts for you. You can grab the link. I'll also put it in the chat, and then hopefully we'll see you there. Other than that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I am now going to pass it over back to Sabna for some Q&A.
Hi, Nada. Thank you so much. I just introduce our treasurer, Preeti. She will be moderating all the question and answers. So since it's an interactive session, right, please feel free to switch on your camera. Be bold enough, confident enough, strong enough. Ask any questions. Nada is here. Just utilize this moment. Just ask if you feel, okay, I was not feeling confident at this and this moment. What should I do? So go ahead. Preeti, please moderate the session.
Thanks, Abna. So if somebody feels that they're not able to speak up, feel free to use our chat. Post your questions there, and Nada would be more than happy to answer and take up those questions.
And I encourage you to speak up, okay? Even if you feel like you don't know what you're at, it doesn't matter, right? This is a safe space. This is the perfect place to practice your confidence.
So Nada, let me start while we get questions from other audiences. So there was one slide you had shown up about macro and micro level confidence, right? So yeah. I could see speaking and speaking up. Is that the same thing or is it different?
It's different. That's a great question, okay? So speaking means like public speaking, right? So what I'm doing right now. And actually there's many women, more women than men for some reason, that have a hard time just with public speaking. Like they get afraid to like stand in front of the boardroom or maybe stand in front of a meeting and like do a presentation and do public speaking, okay? So that's external, okay? That's external. Speaking up is internal because it takes something within you to have the confidence to say and have your voice heard. And so that's why the macro level of confidence is so important, so that it empowers you to speak your truth or to speak your voice or to raise your hand and say something. So different things. Public speaking is actually a skill, right? So it could teach you how to like speak and do your presentation and that kind of thing. Very good question.
So I think in our question and answer session, we want people to utilize the macro level confidence to speaking up the micro level of confidence, right?
Yes, macro, this is macro level. So any question at all, even if it's specific, like, you know, in my work, this is what's happening, any suggestions. So anything at all, please, you know, be brave. You can ask me, and this is a great opportunity to ask. Harini, I feel like you have a question. I'm looking at you and I see you kind of like, I'm feeling the energy from you. You're like, how did she know? I'm all the way in like California.
Please, girl.
You got me right on though.
Yeah. Go on, Harini, go on.
I was just like trying to like she said, right? My question is kind of like fuzzy, so I was like trying to like think of a
That's
way.
okay.
So yeah, I really like the way you like split it in micro and macro because, and now it makes sense because I feel like I am confident, but I also feel like I'm not sometimes. And I think that like whatever confidence I feel is in like the micro level, like competency levels, a level, and it's not much on the overall, right? So how do you like? So of course there are a lot of accomplishments in all these years, but what's a way to like transform your micro level confidence to building up to a macro level and not feel and get rid of like so I think often what I a frequent thought is maybe like even after all these accomplishments I'm not too good enough or I'm not too smart enough to come up with new ideas or thoughts. So I think the confidence is just at the micro level for me. At most of it is just there. So how do I take that leap, right?
Great question, and thank you for speaking up. So you actually just said it. So if everyone was listening, so you said, no matter what accomplishments I have, I feel like I'm not good enough, or it's not good enough, right? So that's the belief, Harini. Okay, so that's the thought that is preventing you from building macro confidence. So remember when we did the reverse engineering and I said, like, what are the thoughts that you have that are holding you back? That's the thought that I need you to reverse. So even when you do have all these accomplishments and you have all this micro confidence, why do you still not feel enough? Is it something that's happened before? Is it, your past? Is it the last job? There's something that made you feel like you're not enough no matter what you do. And that's what we have to reverse engineer to build the macro confidence.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense. I think it's not like an instant thought or something which I can like reverse engineer immediately. But like you said, I think with time, maybe I can figure that out.
Yes, and so here, that's a great question. So here's how you do that. So sometimes we don't know where it's coming from. So what you do is you take it back like chapter by chapter. So did you feel this way in your last job? Yes, I did. I'm kind of giving an example. Yes, I did. Okay. Did you feel this way in university? No, I didn't feel this way in university. Okay, great. So we know that the thought or the belief, it came somewhere between university and the last job, right? And now we can reverse deeper engineering in that way. So was it a boss? Was it a moment? Did you get rejected on a promotion? And now we can start to figure out like, where did that feeling come from? So if you can't identify it right away, take it back chapter by chapter. Okay, great question, Harini.
Yeah, but thank you. You got me right on though. Thank you so much for it.
You're welcome. Vishaka, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. So my question is a little personal. So based on my past experiences at work and in life, so I have a kind of trust issue. Like I cannot delegate the work to someone else. If at all I don't resonate with a person, no matter how good that person is, I'll do it by myself because I think that the person will ruin up my work and it will have a negative connotation. But this is very toxic for me. There has been time where I burned myself up with lots of work because I don't have the quality to trust people so easily. And yes, I know it's not okay, but then how do I go about it?
Great question. Thank you. So again, the reverse engineering. So the question for you is, why don't you trust somebody specifically in the workspace? So did you get burned in the past? Okay, so I see you nodding your head, right? So I'm going to assume that you trusted somebody in the workspace in the past and they didn't deliver, right? So they did something that wasn't good, or they didn't, do a good product, and then you got blamed for it, or like you kind of got the, right? So, so now that's created, it's what we call a trigger. So now it's anytime work needs to be done, there's a trigger there for you where you don't trust because you don't want to have that experience again. So basically the behavior is to trust, okay? The action is to trust someone. But that behavior and that action is tied to a thought and a feeling. And the thought and the feeling is not a good one. It's a, no, danger zone. I'm going to get in trouble again because, right? It's danger zone. Okay. So that's where we need to reverse engineer, like what exactly happened, who was a part of it, why did it happen? And then is that true for every other person? Okay. And that's kind of how we have to break it down so that we can rebuild trust with other people. Because essentially what's happening is that one situation, it now has power over all of your other potential relationships in the workspace. So it's sabotaging you. And so you're giving power to this one situation. And so now you have to ask yourself, do they even deserve that much power? Right? Because they're sabotaging your success today. Does that mean that it won't happen again? No, because there's going to be some people that, again, remember what I talked about emotional intelligence, like they're not confident or they have their own challenges. And because of that, that's how they show up, but it might not. You might make incredible professional relationships. They might be a great team player. They might help you push your career. So that's where you have to reverse engineer and then understand, should I let this continue to have power over my future success? Really, really great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I have one last question for you, Nada. So you had explained wonderfully, the core 5 components of, building for self, and you yourself are working for Rise Up. So now that we have some sort of a common cause, like WiCyS as a community India affiliate, we also want to, build. Now, what I understand, these 5 core components are individual driven. For example, if I think about myself, how do I rise up myself, right? So I will see each component individually. Do I have self-compassion? Do I have, optimism? That way. But when you are looking for a community, it's not you as an individual, it is for everybody. So I don't have control on a couple of components like self-compassion. I don't know if, I am working for a community, women in cybersecurity. There's so many, I don't know if people are actually having self-compassion. So how do we help, not from the individual view, but at a high level view, at a community level, to help them build these 5 key components of a core?
That's a great question. Really great. So this is what we do with a lot of companies. So we work with a lot of companies around the world. And the one thing that I say, like on an organizational level, is make emotional intelligence a core value, like a core competency that you work on as an organization. Because emotional intelligence is actually above confidence, okay? So this is emotional intelligence, and confidence is a part of self-awareness. And so it really comes down to values as an organization. Like, what are the values as a group? And then as the team or as the community, do you embody those values? And then do you incorporate them like in your events and when you have speakers and that kind of thing? So I would say in order to help continue to cultivate confidence on a community level, really start embodying and fostering emotional intelligence, self-awareness, self-management, empathy, and leadership as a community. And that will also help create more confidence.
Bang on, because we are a technical community. So I think these are the aspects which we tend to sort of ignore or, avoid. Yes. So yeah, this is really, really useful. Emotional intelligence is, above everything. Yeah.
Yes, and I'll be transparent and say that most of the companies that we work with, I would say 70% of them are technology for that exact reason, right? Because your brain is more like research, data, analytics, right? Engineering mode. And so sometimes we forget the importance of the soft skills, but always remember this, your technical skill, at some point it's gonna cap. That means that everyone's going to have the same technical skill. It's like, oh, you all have the same degree, the same certifications, right? The thing that's going to make you different, that's going to help you climb the career ladder, are now these soft skills: confidence, emotional intelligence, the ability to speak up, the ability to communicate effectively. That's what makes people climb the career ladder, and that's what makes them the leader. In fact, if you don't have that, then your job is actually in jeopardy, because we say that your resume might get your foot in the door, but that doesn't mean it's going to get you to keep the job. Because if you don't have confidence and you don't speak up and you're not a leader and you don't communicate effectively, you can actually lose your job to somebody else that does have that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I have a last question for you, Nada.
Okay, go on.
Can you sing a song for me? It's for us.
What's
Since
that?
you're an amazing singer, right?
I didn't hear your question. What was it?
Can you sing a song for us? Since you said you're an amazing singer, and we would like to see the macro confidence from you.
Sure. Yeah, no one's ever asked me that question, but I will sing for you. Yes, I will. This is my micro confidence. So this is the skill of confidence, but I'll sing for you. I don't know if you're familiar with a singer named Tina Turner, but she's one of my favorite. So I'll sing a little bit of that. I know you love me, baby. Oh, but you never tell me so. And I know you love me, baby, but you never tell me so. If you don't tell me that you love me, I'm gonna pack my bags and go. There you go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I think we are top of our hour. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the audience who took out time over a Friday evening here in India and join this wonderful session. That means they have taken the first step to learn about building, boosting the confidence and breaking the ceiling for their career growth. So I would like to thank Sabna, our president, WiCyS India affiliate, who helped us to reach out to Nada and get her here on this platform so that we can reach and meet all our community members here. And special thanks to Nada for such a brilliant and wonderful session. Most of the time as a woman in cybersecurity, we end up talking about technology and cybersecurity. This is something different, which most of the women and ladies and girls, they want to know and learn what are the other things other than technology that they want to do. So I think you helped us give that insight, building that core with the 5 key components. As well as giving us that view, how do we boost that at a community level. So we will definitely see how we practice it and implement that for our women in cybersecurity community. And thank you so much for taking out time, Nada, and giving us this wonderful session. We are
You're very welcome.
very much
Thank
happy
you so
to
much.
have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks,
and let's focus on bringing up that score, right? By 60, right? Let's all work together to bring up that score. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Nada. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Enjoy.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.